The morning light peeked through the curtains, casting a soft glow in your bedroom. But despite the peaceful morning, the air between you and Jungkook was far from calm. Jungkook, I said don't go. You snapped, your voice trembling with frustration and fear. Jungkook, already halfway dressed in his black shirt and pants, turned around with a tired sigh. His sharp eyes softened as he looked at you. "One, stop it, please," he said calmly. "Nothing will happen to me, I'll be fine." "No," you shouted, stepping closer to him. "I don't allow you to go. Just decide, me or your mission." Jungkook's expression tightened, his patience thinning. He ran his fingers through his damp hair, still messy from his morning shower. "Don't make me choose like that," he muttered. "You know this isn't about me. Those orphans, they need me. If I don't go now, they will suffer because of me. I don't care." You shot back, tears stinging your eyes. "If something happens to you, what will I do?" Jungkook sighed deeply, his fingers curling into fists as he tried to control his frustration. He stepped closer and grabbed your shoulders gently. "Wine, listen to me," his voice softened. "I promise this will be the last time. After this, no more risking my life, I swear. Just let me go this once, for them." His eyes pleaded with you, but you couldn't ignore the memory still haunting you. The last time he went on a mission, he had come home covered in blood, a deep gash across his arm and bruises darkening his ribs. He could barely walk. That night you stayed awake, clutching his hand tightly, praying he wouldn't slip away. "So you want the mission more than me?" you whispered, your voice breaking. Jungkook sighed again, frustration flickering in his eyes. "Wine, try to understand." "I understand plenty." You cut him off, turning your back to him. Your shoulders shook as silent tears began to fall. His phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand. His men were calling. Jungkook grabbed his phone, glancing at you one last time. "I'm sorry," he muttered under his breath before walking out the door. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the house. You stood frozen, your heart aching as tears spilled down your cheeks. It wasn't anger you felt, it was fear. Fear of losing him, fear of waking up one day without him by your side. Jungkook was your whole world, your only family. If something happened to him, you couldn't even imagine. The moment Jungkook walked out the door, Hyejin's lip curled into a sly smile. She was through the window as his car disappeared down the street. "Mr. Jungkook, don't worry. I'll replace your wife and take care of you well," she murmured to herself, her eyes glinting with confidence. "Such a handsome guy like you needs me, not some emotional fool." Her smug grin widened, but just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. Once she felt a sharp tap on her shoulder, heart racing. She spun around to find you standing there, arms crossed and gaze cold as ice. "What are you thinking about?" you asked firmly, your tone sharp. Hyejin stuttered, her face turning pale. "Nothing, Miss Wine. I was just thinking what about to prepare for lunch." You raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Good. Only think about your work, and if any other thoughts crosses your mind, you will face the consequences." Hyejin's eyes widened slightly and she nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am," she mumbled before scurrying back to the kitchen. You stood there for a moment, exhaling slowly. It had only been a week since Hyejin started working in your home, stepping in when her mother, your trusted housemaid, had fallen ill. But in those few days you had sensed something off about her. Unlike her mother, Hyejin lacked warmth. She wasn't kind or humble. Instead, there was an air of arrogance in her eyes that never sat right with you. But you knew how to handle women like her, and you were determined to keep her in her place. Later that day, you sat on the living room couch, clutching a framed photo of you and Jungkook. It was one of your happiest memories, both of you laughing, his arm wrapped tightly around you, The warmth of his smile seemed to radiate from the picture, and your heart clenched painfully. I hope you will come home safe, Jungkook, you whispered, brushing your thumb over his face in the photo. I think you don't deserve this life, ma'am. Hyejin's voice suddenly broke the silence. Your head snapped up, startled. What did you just say? You asked coldly. Hyejin stood by the doorway, her arms crossed, her lips twisted in a small smirk. I mean, you deserve someone better, she said with a fake sweetness in her voice. Someone who values your feelings. Mr. Jungkook seems too committed to his work more than you. Your eyes narrowed dangerously. Excuse me? I just thought, since I have been here for a week, I have noticed things. He barely listens to you, you cry over him, yet he leaves without a second thought. That's not how a loving husband behaves it, she added, her tone laced with fake concern. You stood up, your fingers tightening around the picture frame. You have been here for 1 week, I have been with him for 3 years. Do you think you know him better than I do? Hyejin's confident smile wavered slightly. I didn't mean it that way, I was just... You better stay out of my personal life, you cut her off firmly. I'm not in a position to take your advice, understand? Hyejin's face stiffened, her eyes lowering. Yes, ma'am. Good. You said sharply. Now go back to the kitchen and focus on your work instead of wasting your time. Without another word, Hyejin turned and walked back to the kitchen. You didn't miss the way her hands curled into fists as she left. Hyejin had been working as a maid from a week in your house. Her mother, who had been working for 3 years, fell ill, and because of her request, you had to appoint Hyejin as new maid. But she lacks kind and warmthness like her mother. She is always proud and so full of her, which you hate in her. Evening hours later, the house felt colder that evening, the silence almost deafening. You kept packing back and forth in the living room, unable to relax. Every time a car passed by, you ran to the window hoping to see Jungkook, but he still wasn't home. The fear that had settled in your chest all day kept growing stronger. Memories of his injured body flashed in your mind, the bruises, the bowl, the way he winced in pain but still managed to smile at you. Please come home safe, you whispered to yourself. Just then you heard footsteps behind you. Turning around, you found Hyejin standing there again, holding a glass of water. You should calm down, ma'am, she said in the same fake sweet tone. Worrying won't bring him back faster, and honestly, I wouldn't blame him if he's avoiding this house on purpose. Your eyes widened in disbelief. What did you just say? Hyejin shrugged casually. I mean, men don't like weak women. Maybe if you stop crying every time he left, Enough. You barked, your voice shaking with anger. I told you before, stay out of my life. If you open your mouth again about my husband, you'll be out of this house before you know it. Got that? For the first time, Hyejin's face showed genuine fear. Yes, ma'am, she stammered before scurrying away. You clenched your fist, feeling your blood boil, but more than anger, you felt pain, the deep ache of missing Jungkook. You didn't want to cry again, but the tears were already burning in your eyes. You sank back onto the couch, hugging Jungkook's photo to your chest. Please come home safe, you whispered again. Later that night, you sat anxiously in the living room, staring at the clock. Every passing second felt like an eternity. You had been pacing back and forth, your heart pounding with worry. Finally, the doorbell rang. You rushed to the door, your hands trembling as you unlocked it. Your breath hissed when you saw Jungkook standing there, supported by two of his guards. His shirt was open, revealing a large bandage wrapped tightly around his waist. His face looked pale and sweat dripped down his temples. He could barely stand on his own. Jungkook, you gasped, your voice shaking. What happened? One of the guards answered. He was attacked by enemies, Miss Wan. A bullet went into his stomach. Your eyes widened in shock. Tears welled up expecting to spill. You stared at Jungkook, who was trying to give you a weak smile. I'm fine, man. Jungkook muttered, his voice strained. Don't worry. But you could see the pain in his eyes. He was barely holding himself together. Take him to the bedroom, you said firmly, ignoring his words. The guards carefully helped Jungkook to a shared bedroom and placed him gently on the bed. He groaned softly as he tried to adjust himself. Once they made sure he was settled, the guards left the room. Fine, Jungkook called weakly, reaching out for you. Please talk to me. You didn't answer. Instead, you turned away and called the doctor. The worry in your voice was clear, and the doctor arrived shortly after. The doctor examined Jungkook carefully. The bullet wound isn't life-threatening, he said, but he's lost some blood. He needs rest and proper care. Here is a prescription for his medication and make sure he eats healthy, easy-to-digest food. I'll take care of it, you said quietly. After seeing the doctor out, you went straight to the kitchen. You started preparing porridge and soup exactly how the doctor advised. As you stirred the pot, your mind replayed Jungkook's weak smile, his tired voice, and the sight of that large bandage on his waist. Tears silently streamed down your face. From that night onward, you devoted yourself to taking care of him, but you refused to speak to him. Each morning you brought him breakfast, helped him sit up, and gave him his medicine. Whenever he tried to talk to you, you would turn away without a word. Even when he tried to hold your hand or apologize, you gently moved away, focusing only on his recovery. One afternoon, while you were feeding him soup, Jungkook grabbed your wrist, stopping you. Wine. His voice was soft, almost pleading. Please, talk to me. You didn't respond, carefully pulling your hand away and continuing to feed him, but his eyes stayed on you, filled with guilt and regret. Wine. Jungkook tried again. I know you're upset, and I know my silence hurts you more than anything else, but please listen to me. You finished feeding him and placed the empty bowl on the nightstand. As he stood up to leave, Jungkook grabbed your hand again. Please, he whispered. I know you're angry, but I can't take this anymore. More than this injury, your silence is hurting me. You turned around slowly, your expression cold. What do you want me to say, Jungkook? You said quietly that I'm okay with you, risking your life again, that I'm fine seeing you come home covered in blood. Your voice cracked and tears pooled in your eyes. I told you not to go. I begged you, but you left anyway. Jungkook's eyes softened. One, I didn't want to hurt you, but there was a small kid, a little boy. He was about to be shot. I couldn't just stand there. I had to step in. That's when I got injured. Your breath hissed. You felt your heart clench at his words. Of course, Jungkook wouldn't just risk himself for no reason. He always fought to protect innocent people. I had no choice. Jungkook continued. I couldn't let that child die. I couldn't. Tears finally escaped your eyes, and you quickly wiped them away. Without saying a word, you turned and left the room. Jungkook sighed heavily, feeling helpless and guilty. For the next few days, you continued your silent treatment, but Jungkook's condition started to improve. And you couldn't deny the relief you felt. Each time you secretly checked on him while he slept, you felt your heart ache. One evening, you quietly entered the room to bring him warm tea. Jungkook was asleep, his face calm yet tired. As you placed the cup on the table, you noticed how weak he still looked. His bandage was visible under his shirt, reminding you of how much he had suffered. The room was dimly lit as you quietly sat beside Jungkook, gently adjusting his blanket. His breathing was steady, but you could see the discomfort on his face. You sighed deeply, the weight of your silent treatment still heavy in the air. Suddenly you heard footsteps behind you. Turning your head, you saw Hyejin standing in the doorway, her arms crossed. Ma'am? What? You asked sharply, your patience already worn thin. Why don't you sleep in another room? She said with a faint smile. I will take care of your husband. Your eyes widened in disbelief. What did you just say? Your voice was cold, demanding an explanation. Hyejin blinked innocently. I mean, you have been struggling for a week. I thought you needed some rest. So why don't you leave us? I mean, I can't take care of him, giving medicines on time. You shot up from your seat, rage burning in your eyes. Without a second thought, you slapped her across the face. Don't you dare say that again. You want, your voice shaking with anger. I know exactly what kind of intentions you have. Hyejin stumbled back, clutching her cheek in shock. How dare you slap me? She yelled, her voice sharp with bitterness. She raised her hand to strike you back, but you caught her wrist firmly. Oh no, you don't. You snapped, tightening your grip. In one swift motion, you dragged her out of the bedroom and into the lobby. The moment you reached the entrance, you slapped her once again. Do you think you can slap me? Hyejin screamed, holding her face. I'm seeing you clearly now. You shot back, pointing a finger at her. I have been watching you from the start. You have had the wrong intention since the day you arrived. Just because Jungkook and I had an argument doesn't mean he would leave me and run to some woman like you. Oh please, you think your relationship is so special. He's tired of your winning. Hyejin scoffed. Listen carefully, you said firmly, stepping closer. If he wanted to leave me because of an argument, he would have left a long time ago. We had plenty of fights, and each one only made our bond stronger. We are not so weak that one argument can break us. You're just scared, Hyejin sneered. You know he deserves someone better than you. And what, you think that's you? You shot back. Did you ever look at yourself in the mirror? Women like you are the reason so many marriages fall apart. But not mine. Jungkook and I are strong enough to survive anything, even snakes like you. Hyejin glared at you, her eyes full of hatred. We'll see how long he stays with you, she muttered under her breath. I said pack your things and leave, you repeated sternly. And one more thing, you added, stepping even closer, so your face was just inches from hers. Remove every thought of replacing me from your head, because Jungkook is mine, and no one will ever take him away from me, understand? Hyejin clenched her fist, her face red with anger, but she turned away and stormed upstairs to gather her belongings. You watched her go, feeling your heart race from the confrontation. You stood there breathing heavily, your heart racing from the confrontation with Hyejin. Just as you tried to calm yourself, a soft yet familiar voice spoke from behind. If you love me so much, then why are you ignoring me, Ryan? You froze. Jungkook, he was awake and he had heard everything. Slowly turning around, you found him standing near the bedroom door, his face pale and tired. He looked weak, but his eyes held a deep sadness that pierced right through you. Jungkook, you whispered, unsure what to say. He took a shaky step closer and gently turned you towards him. His fingers barely had strength, but they gripped your wrist firmly enough to stop you from stepping away. Wan, please talk to me at least now, he pleaded, his voice breaking. I can't bear this anymore. Instead of this, I should have died that day. Don't say that, you cried, your hands shooting up to cover his mouth. Don't you ever say that again, Jungkook. I can't live without you. He stared at you, surprised by your sudden outburst. Tears welled in your eyes and your voice trembled with raw emotion. Jungkook gently removed your hand from his mouth, holding it between his fingers. Then why won't you talk to me? He asked softly, his voice filled with pain. Unable to hold back anymore, you threw your arms around him, burying your face in his chest. His arms, though weak, immediately wrapped around you tightly. I was scared, Jungkook, you sobbed. I got got angry not because you left for the mission, but because you weren't safe. Seeing you like this so hurt. I couldn't speak to you normally. I didn't know what to do. Jungkook's hand gently stroked your hair. I'm sorry, you whispered through your tears. I didn't mean to hurt you by ignoring you. I was just afraid. I kept thinking, what if you didn't come back home? What if I lost you forever? But I did come home, Jungkook murmured, pressing a soft kiss to your head. I promised you, didn't I? No matter what happens, I will always return to you. You sniffled and leaned back to look at his face. His tired eyes softened as they met yours. I know, you said quietly, but still you are hurt, saving that chill. What if something worse had happened? What if... While Jungkook interrupted, keeping your face with his warm hands. I don't regret what I did. That child, they deserve to live. If I had to take the bullet again to save them, I would. But what about me? Your voice broke. I need you too. You always think about saving others, but you forget how much you mean to me, to us. What would I do without you, Jungkook? Jungkook closed his eyes and rested his forehead against yours. I know, he whispered. I know you love me and I'm so sorry I made you feel this way. But why? You are my strength. When I was lying there, bleeding and in pain, all I could think about was you. I kept telling myself, I have to go home. I have to see Ryan again. Tears rolled down your cheeks as you held his face gently in your hands. I loved you, Jungkook, you said in a trembling voice. I love you so much and I don't want to lose you. I love you too, Jungkook whispered back. More than anything, more than my own life. You both stood there in silence, holding each other tightly as if afraid to let go. Jungkook pressed a soft kiss on your forehead, then kissed your tear-streaked cheeks, whispering comforting words between each kiss. Please don't ignore me again, he said softly. Even if you are angry, even if you are scared, just talk to me, okay? Can't handle being away from you like that, I promise, you whispered, wiping your tears. No more silent treatments. But you have to promise me something too. Anything, Jungkook said without hesitation. Promise me you will always be careful and you will always come back home to me. I promise, Jungkook said, his voice full of emotion. I will always come back home to you, Ryan. You smiled weakly and kissed his lips softly. Jungkook pulled you closer, deepening the kiss, pouring all his love and gratitude into it. For the first time in days, you felt warmth spread through your heart, knowing he was finally safe in your arms where he belonged. Thank you for watching. If you like the story, please subscribe.